at this point want to say a few things about the disarray of our tradition now. I think probably one of the greatest reasons there's this Muhammad Abdu and Jamaluddin al-Afghani were of the opinion that taqleed is what destroyed the Muslims, that they fell into this blind imitation, that suddenly Al-Azhar was just a place where you memorized textbooks and that was it. There was no ibtikar, there was no... Now, there is an element of truth to that, but there's an element of I think, deep misunderstanding also. Because, first of all, Muslims have always believed that the highest knowledge is knowledge of Sharia. This is the highest knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this does not obviate the necessity of secular knowledges. In fact, really that is not a distinction that we accept. I don't accept the distinction ulum ad-din wa ulum ad-dunya. This really is a dangerous concept to differentiate. No, we differentiate in fard al-ayn wa fard al-kifaya. They're both ibadah. To learn how to build a bridge to facilitate the movement of the Muslims across a river is ibadah. To learn how to heal the body of a human being, Bani Adam, لأن في كل كبد حي أجر. In every living person, there's a reward if you help it. Including the Jew, the Christian, the Magian. The Muslims never would refuse to treat a non-Muslim. And no, totally unacceptable in Sharia. In fact, the man Shahak Israel, who wrote a book called History of Jewish Religion, 3,000 years, and it's published by Pluto Press, with an introduction by Gore Vidal from England, highly recommended reading. It's basically a commentary on the section in Surah Al-Baqarah about the cow. One of the things he says, he mentioned why he wrote that book, is because he was in he's a professor in Hebrew University. He was in an Orthodox area, and this man, a tourist, dropped down and started having a heart attack, and he ran to a house, and he said, I need to use a phone, we need to call an ambulance, there's a man dying out here. He said, this Orthodox Jew looked out and he said, I can't do that. He said, why not? He said, it's Sabbath. The man said, no, you don't understand, he's dying. He said, no, I can't, it doesn't matter, he's not a Jew. Now this is a Jewish man saying this, I'm not saying this. This is not some kind of anti-Semitic story or something. I know, this is a Jew, I'm telling you something about the religion of Bani Israel, or what it's become. He said, no, he's not a Jew. Now, Shahak Israel, who's a humanist, you see, like there's people from the Jews and the Christians that are good people just like everybody else. There's good and bad in everything. So there's people that are honest, upright, these things. The Quran, there's no ambiguity there. He's a humanistic Jew who's actually very disgusted by the Israeli policy towards the Arabs, and that's what he writes about racism and things like that exist in the mentality of the religion itself and the people that it deals with. And although, Judaism is the sacred cow of comparative religions, you can criticize all the religious traditions, really, but Judaism is the sacred cow. And I use sacred cow because it's Hinduism, right? The cow is like Abu Ala al-Maududi. One Hindu became Muslim, and Abu Ala al-Maududi, rahimahullah, said, have you eaten cow yet? He said, nope. He said, your iman's not complete until you go have a steak. We'd have to, if you live in England, don't take that fatwa. Yeah. So now this man Shahak Israel, he was so shocked by this, he said, I have to find out if this is, this is obviously stupidity. The man obviously doesn't understand his religion, and he wanted to write an article about it to show fanaticism and stupidity, ignorance. And so he went to several rabbis to get the proper position. All of them told him that he acted as a pious Jew. And he was amazed. He said, what kind of religion is that? A man's dying and you can't save his life? He was really shocked. He was deeply shocked. And that's really from which the book came. It's very interesting. So the essence of our intellectual tradition is really depth and discovery. And inshallah, I want to talk tonight. There's a talk, because I'm going to wind down here, but tonight I wanted to talk about more actually the practicum, what our tradition is based on. And my point about sciences and religious things is that there is a help in all these fard kifaya, like medicine. You see, a Muslim would not turn away a Jew. He would go to the phone and use it to call, because it's a human being out there. We don't see it. You know, there's an element at which you see a human being. You no longer, you know, I was once in a hospital treating a Sikh person, and we know what the Sikhs are doing to the Muslims. But I really did not, he had just had a heart attack, and he was really in a crisis state. You know, he was, because suddenly he was confronted with his own mortality, and I happened to be taking care of him. That was my assignment that night. And I sat, and I listened to him, and I responded to his, because, you know, there's an element that has to transcend. You know, at the base here, we're dealing with human beings they wear robes, and those robes are not the human beings themselves. They're disguised in them. But there, deep in the essence of that human being, is a ruh. It's a ruh that was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what we respect. That is why we give people their human dignity. Because they are containers and vesicles of this ruh that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And this is why in Sahih al-Bukhari, when the Prophet stood up for the Jewish funeral, the man said, Yahudiyun ya Rasulullah. He said, awalaysat nafsa? He says, a Jewish man, he said, isn't it a soul? Because now he's no longer in his Judaic robe. He's dead now. Judaism is here on earth. You see, he's going to be accountable for it, but now he's a nafs. Just like when you die, we're all Muslims at the point of death. In fact, one of the words in Arabic to die is aslama ruhahu. His ruh now has really entered into Islam. That's what ruh means. To die in Arabic is to become a Muslim. So they all become Muslims at the end, right? Now the problem is, right, if you didn't do it consciously in this life, then you have trouble. That's the whole point. You either come taw'an or kurhan. You come in obedience or in disobedience, but we're all entering into Islam, which is death itself. You see, death is the final submission.